What is this? Hasan Minhaj's emotional truths in his stand-up act. The former Patriot Act host has often recounted harrowing experiences he faced as Asian American and Muslim American. Does it matter that much of it never happened to him? Wait, what? Lied? Wait, what? That's kind of crazy. Wait, what? No, he lied a ton. Start unglazing. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's a really long article. I still like him. I met him. He was very nice, and I think his politics are. But he was nice to you, Hasan. ... No, his politics are what is more important to me. And his politics, as far as like every other person that you can compare him to in mainstream media, are far better than even John Oliver. Okay? It's quite ridiculous to be like, oh, dude, the metrics that you're judging him on must be that like he was nice to you one time, so that means like he's a fucking bad person engaging in commentary. None of that changes my opinion on his commentary in general. I am shocked though that he lied about fucking his personal experiences. However, I guess, like, I don't know. He lied about getting anthrax sent to his home. He's on that George Santos level of lying, Hasan. I guess it's a little different because he's not George Santos running for office. He's an entertainer. So, like, it's like a little bit more, like, it's a bit, you know what I mean? It can fall under the bit thing, but a lot of people probably thought that was, I mean, I would assume it's a little wild to fucking lie about getting anthrax sent to your fucking home, you know what I mean? That's crazy. Does it really matter if he lied? Like, what came out of it? Was there any tangible or material benefit? Yeah, it's just a bit. You're right. I have met Trevor Noah and Hasan Minhaj, and Trevor was rude to me at the top of the hour. Hasan was more understanding. Fucking dude, are you serious? This is a wild thing to make up. The comedian defended his fabrication, saying they were based on an emotional truth. Why did he admit to this? He should have just never talked about this, in my opinion, until like 20 years down the line or something. I get what he's saying about emotional truth. What he's talking about is like, what he's trying to say is that like, this is a real thing that happened to many fucking Muslim Americans, especially like visibly Muslim brown Americans that like a lot of people shit on. And I wanted to make something funny out of it. I guess that's what he's trying to say. I mean, a lot of comedians lie for jokes. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's still a wild thing to lie about. I guess it's because it's like, I guess it stems from an understanding of like what kind of commentary and comedy he's doing, because his comedy also revolves around political commentary. So it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? If Joe Rogan is fucking lying about like, I don't know, some stool fucking story that he has, it's a little bit different. Like, you don't look at that and you go, there is a real, emotional, genuine thing that happened here. It's like if I lied to you about fucking farting on a dog or something, you know what I mean? It's like low stakes lying. Whereas like lying about being, lying about a lot of real formative truths, especially in a stand-up special that like features your experiences growing up as like a brown Muslim man in America, that's definitely a little bit higher in the stakes situation, even though technically a lot of comedy is, of course, made up. The goal is to make you laugh and make you think, right? I think the other aspect of this is more so, like, it's not like a Jussie Smollett situation. I don't think so. I don't think so at all, because this is a stand-up special. So the Jussie Smollett situation is like literally faking a hate crime, right? Jussie Smollett faked a hate crime to gain attention and, like, I think continue his job when his job prospects were not great, not looking too good. He had authorities involved. He set up a whole ass hate crime. Like, there is no comparison here. Whereas this is an elaborate story that he's telling you, and he's never actually like telling you that this story is supposed to be 100% truthful, but everyone expects that to be 100% truthful because why the fuck would you lie about something like that? Because this is stand-up. It's a stand-up special. You know what I mean? Your expectation is supposed to be that, like, there is going to be massaging of the truth, because nothing that funny could happen to you, right? Dave Chappelle lies about being sane, human being on stage, stuff. What? Yeah, I mean, that's not. I'm pretty sure the context of this is one of those serious moments you're supposed to believe is true, kind of lame but harmless in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I put this with like Hillary Clinton lying about being shot at in a war zone. I mean, I think there's a difference, because like your expectation from Hillary Clinton is supposed to be a truthful public servant, okay? Your expectation from a comedian is supposed to be making you laugh, okay? Making you think and making you laugh. And the problem is, in the post-Obama era of content, a lot of comedies turned around and turned into just make me think, don't make me laugh. As a matter of fact, let me clap at you rather than laugh with you. And I think that is the reason why we place a lot of emphasis on comedians being like truth tellers and world changers and all this shit, when it's like, no, man, they're supposed to make you laugh. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? That's the point. And I think that is the reason why a lot of people, a lot of liberals who care about comedy from that aspect, who care about comedy from that aspect will look at someone like Hasan Minhaj and place him in a higher level, of commentary that is, in my opinion, unwarranted. One that he has still personally benefited from in the liberal media era, right? Nanette really ruined comedy. I don't know if it's just Nanette. It's like watching stepmom, stepson porn. No one actually believes you keep the illusion up. I mean, you keep the illusion up. I try to personally not even think about it. I don't like that illusion. I think that illusion is kind of gross. Liberals' only theory is whatever content they consume, so of course they take comedy so seriously. Yeah. The story outlines several fabrications peppered throughout Minhaj's work, often in service of describing experiences of discrimination and threats of violence for speaking truth to power. It is not unheard of for comedians or even memoirists to tweak, exaggerate, or make up certain details to ensure a joke lands. And Minhaj defended his choices, saying the stories he told were based on emotional truth. He added, the punchline is worth the fictionalized premise. Two prominent stories featured in Minhaj's 2022 stand-up special, The King's Jester, were falsified. The first centers around a white man named Brother Eric, who Minhaj said converted to Islam instead of showing up at the Sacramento area mosque he attended as a kid in 2002. In the bit, Minhaj said he was sure Brother Eric was an informant and even tried to goad him into talking about getting his pilot's license. Minhaj claimed that led to a confrontation with the police. The bit ends with Minhaj claiming years later he recognized Brother Eric as a man named Craig Monteith, who did work as an FBI informant in Muslim communities. This was revealed through a surveillance case that reached the Supreme Court. In reality, however, Monteith was in prison in 2002 and didn't start working in the FBI until 2006. So, you know what's really funny about this? Like, this is a Muslim dude who's fucking telling a story about a common experience that, like, a lot of Muslims went through in America in a post 9/11 world. And, like, just because he didn't personally go through it, but decided to fucking massage himself into that fucking story, doesn't change the reality of the story that actually fucking happened. You know what I mean? It's just storytelling. Like, I think it's kind of funny that people are just like, wow, I can't believe he lied about this. It's like, bro, but it happened. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, the story that he's telling did not happen to him, but it fucking happened. Now, there's, of course, a difference if I were to tell you a story like that and tell you in all sincerity and act like it happened to me. That's a little bit different because I'm a commentator, right? I'm not a comedian, and it's not my stand-up special. He's a comedian doing a stand-up special. Of course, the fucking, like, if it didn't happen to him, it didn't happen to him. But, like, the story that he's telling, a version of that story literally happened in the real world. Yeah. And the major difference between why he puts himself in this, in the center of the story is because, as Fango Lives correctly points out, I have a friend, or did you hear about this guy stories don't land like the I did stories. Exactly. It's supposed to be a joke, or it's supposed to make you laugh about a situation that, like, happened to people that looked like him in America. Yeah, Tom Segura didn't talk to Ted Cruz. It's just a funny story. Exactly. Like, are people going after Tom Segura to be like, wow, did Tom Segura actually fucking literally move next door to Ted Cruz? Did they actually have a conversation? Because if they didn't, then it's really fucked up. You know what I mean? I guess he lied about that. The bit ends with Minhaj claiming years later he recognized them, FBI informant. In reality, however, Montiel was in prison. He never worked in Sacramento, only in Southern California. Despite the fabrication, Minhaj remained defiant, suggesting he owed Montiel nothing because of his actual work as an informant, which this part is 100% true. And sorry, but it's quite fucking Caucasian for someone to be like, actually, this fucking, like, pedophile informant that the FBI tapped to infiltrate Muslim communities has to literally get the real recognition. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, suck my dick, okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? What do you want him to apologize to an FBI informant who infiltrated Muslim communities? Like, are you out of your fucking mind? The caucasity of this fucking conversation is nutty to me. It is mind-boggling to me. Get the freaking fuck out of here, okay? Are you out of your fucking delusional, racist-ass mind? Get the fuck out of here. Excuse me. Can you please actually apologize to the pedophile FBI CI who infiltrated Muslim communities in all sincerity? Can you do that? Why did you center yourself in the story of his like real life awful actions? Excuse me, like suck my dick. I do think that there's a couple different factors at play here though within the fabrication. One, it's like liberals and how much emphasis they place on their own media consumption and how important that is to their worldview. It's like everything that I'm consuming says something about me and says something about my worldview, and I'm a good person, and I actually listened to Hasan Minhaj's stories, and I felt something, and now I feel betrayed. It's like, no, man, he's a fucking comedian. Like, he's a comedian, okay? I saw criticism of Minhaj in tweets like this about how he's engaging in oppression porn. Another example of how oppression stories, in this case fabricated oppression porn, gets leveraged by upwardly mobile immigrants the most advanced in their careers. Cannot think of a better evocation of the stuff I wrote about in my last book. Comedians, of course, have a right to make up stuff to tell a joke. You don't actually have to have a friend who said something funny, but this is totally different. It's oppression fantasy that delegitimizes the real stuff via elite capture. I don't agree. Because I think that ultimately this is a real story that happened to people that literally look like Hasan Minhaj, that live in the same communities as Hasan Minhaj, and his goal is to take that story and blast it into the fucking orbit as a comedian. You know what I mean? Why lie when this shit actually happens? Why say it happened to you? Brother, that is called storytelling. Effective storytelling. If he was doing this in the setting of like a more serious, if he was doing this on my stream, if I was doing this, then that's fucked up. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's different expectations from a stand-up comedy in comparison to like someone who's engaging in commentary. The reason why I think that this gets more emphasis, the reason why this gets more like more coverage than it should is a multitude of different factors. One, Hasan Minhaj is brown, Muslim guy. Okay. Two, he is a commentator. Okay. And also a comedian at the same time. So there's like this weird boundary where is he being a commentator here or is he being a comedian here? So like there is that element, right? He's not just like a funny guy, right? So there's that. And then last but not least, it is the inherently liberal value of like, showing everybody what your cultural signifiers are by like the content that you consume, because you have no grounding in material reality. So you look at stories and you look at comedians as like truth tellers who are never supposed to embellish facts or anything like that. Like they're telling you honest to God truths that you're supposed to agree with. So that in and of itself is like, I think the three major reasons as to why people are like so shocked about this, right? You need to recognize that chatters are choosing to be bad faith in this. They know he was a comedian. They don't care. They're running on fake outrage. Does that make sense? Comedians do it all the time. They take stories they've heard from friends, family, and their communities. They try to make bits all the fucking time, but he didn't do it purely to benefit himself, but to shine a spotlight on the serious effect of post 9/11 America. But why he didn't say in the early 2000s there was a brother Eric in my town, but had to be specific about what year, city, and real man? See, that is where he fucked up. He wanted to do commentary on his stand-up special. That is the real, like this. If I'm analyzing this purely from like a comedy bit analysis point of view, that's where he fucked up, because he used a real guy who actually did it, who actually did the things that he was describing, but to someone else, right? So that is the issue, because he, in that moment, when he used a real guy, kind of blurred the lines between, am I a stand-up comic doing a stand-up special, or am I a commentator telling you real factual information? That's it. Isn't half of Minhaj's stuff in his stand-up political commentary? Yes. However, if you are specifically doing stand-up comedy and not necessarily doing a show like The Daily Show, or not necessarily doing his show like he did in the Patriot Act, then it's different. You know what I mean? I think it's overblown overall. You should read the whole article. I get what we're saying, but some of it went beyond that. So that's my perspective on this. Also, in comedy, you often realize you yourself did something so stupid you turn it into a story about a third party in order to make fun of that behavior. Sure. I don't know. I think the good faith analysis of this is basically that he wanted to take something that was happening to Muslims in post 9/11 America and like turn it into as best a story as possible, as mass consumable a story as possible. And I think he went and added the real factually correct side of it that was like unacceptable. That is, of course, just the brother, the what do you call it? The brother fucking Eric part of his commentary. There's other stories that he apparently fabricated as well, which I'll take a look at. In another fabricated tale from the King's Jester, Minhaj claimed that he received an envelope filled with white powder that accidentally spilled onto his daughter. This was, Minhaj said, at a time when he was receiving threats for a segment on his old Netflix show, Patriot Act, by the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, definitely ordered by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Hindu nationalism in India. Believing he might be sent anthrax, Minhaj was rushed to the hospital. Though his daughter ended up being fine, he punctuated the story by stating his wife then upbraided him for putting their daughter at risk for his work. This story could not be corroborated with the police, area hospitals, or even people who worked at Minhaj's old apartment in Patriot Act, and Minhaj himself copped to making up the parts about his daughter being exposed to a white powder and her subsequent hospitalization. That one is a little bit more fucked up because, again, now you're engaging in like boundaries, you're boundary breaking, and you're substituting between political commentary versus stand-up comedy in a way that is like too specific for no fucking reason. On top of those two instances, Minhaj has falsely claimed he had a meeting with the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C. about arranging an interview with MBS. The same day Khashoggi was murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Minhaj's meetings happened at least a month prior. Like, this part, I don't give a shit about. Like, he made up a bit about Jared Kushner taking a seat at the Time 100 Gala that had been ceremoniously left empty for an imprisoned Saudi activist. No such seat had been designated. And a major part of his 2017 stand-up special, Homecoming King, about being dumped by his prospective prom date at the last minute because of his skin color, was disputed by the woman herself. When asked about the prom story, Minhaj again defended the emotional truth of it and said, there are so many other kids who had similar sort of doorstep experience. Speaking more broadly about the fabrications in his work, he said, you've got to take the shots you were given in life, even if they're built on a lie. The emotional truth is first, the factual truth is secondary. I think he should just said, I'm a fucking comedian, dog. What the fuck are you doing? I'm a comedian. I'm not only a comedian, but I feel like I'm a brown Muslim comedian, and I want to make jokes about the experiences that people like myself and many others like me have had. Do you want me to just fucking tell the stories with like 100% factually correct, in a 100% factually correct way, where I'm like, hey, by the way, just want to make sure this didn't literally happen to me. This happened to someone else. Okay, I just want to make sure. It's like, no, jokes are the more important part. It's a fucking bit. I don't understand. Are these lies from his stand-up as jokes, or did he present them as reporting? No, they are from his stand-up as jokes. Me on my way to scan Hassan's tweet history while the lib outrage is popping. Yeah, but now it sounds like he needs to go touch grass because nothing interesting has happened to him. Bro, ultimately, he's like a fucking kid who grew up in Sacramento in an upper middle class brown family. You know what I mean? So the fucking reality is that as a kid growing up in an upper middle class brown family in Sacramento, he probably did experience some level of racism, like the average level of racism that every fucking person experiences, like a black kid in a predominantly white neighborhood. You know what I mean? Microaggressions, like genuine aggressions beyond that. A lot of this stuff is considered permissible, right? A lot of this stuff is considered permissible. It's also social conditioning that allows you to engage in such behavior, especially when you're a kid and you have no like emotional boundaries, and kids are pieces of shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, he doesn't have to be literally fucking in Dearborn, Michigan, right? Or it's like this. It's like if I fucking was a comedian, which I'm not, and I told you a story about how like I was surveilled by the FBI when I was going to Rutgers, right? That didn't happen to me, but or it might have actually, I don't even fucking know. But the FBI literally was surveilling New Brunswick Muslim students. That's real. That's a real thing that happened. You know what I mean? It's still valid. If you have like a funny, humorous fucking story that you can derive with a message on it, like about assault, like Yeah, that's a comic would absolutely do that. Comics probably have done that. Going into a fucking comedian stand-up bit and like nitpicking each individual aspect of their fucking bit to fact check it is psychotic. It's like fact checking Star Wars, okay? The only difference, like, I'm sorry, George Lucas, we found out that like in a galaxy far, far away, they didn't actually have Wookiees, okay? It's fucked up that you made that shit up. It's like, the fuck do you mean? You have to suspend your disbelief. You know what I mean? These are fucking comedians, dude. The fuck? Do these people not know about comics that also buy bits from younger comics that are 100% made up? I didn't know that they buy bits. Yeah, the worst one definitely is the Anthrax scare bit, including his wife and kid in a fake crime. Yeah, I think that part is like a little wild, but it wasn't even like real Anthrax, I guess. And I think he's just like drawing parallels between two specific circumstances where the final punch of the joke is different than just like, I was a victim of a possible anthrax attack or anything like that. It's just he shared the girl's info and got her harassed. Did he? Or did people find her? Did he actually share her info? I don't remember. That is wild. Like, you should not, that is insane to just be like, this person was a white supremacist at the age of fucking 17 or whatever. So you guys should go and definitely find her out or whatever. What is this? Minhaj often talks about his immigrant upbringing and the social alienation that sometimes came with being a racial minority in his hometown. The central story, his first Netflix special, Homecoming King, which was released in 2017, is about his crush on a friend, a white girl, with whom he shared stolen kiss, who accepted his invitation to prom, but later reneged in a humiliating fashion. Minhaj showed up on her doorstep the night of the dance, only to see another boy putting a corsage on her wrist. On stage, Minhaj says that his friend's parents didn't want her daughter to take pictures of a brown boy because they were concerned about what their relatives might think. I'd eaten off their plates. I kissed their daughter. I didn't know that people could be bigoted even as they were smiling at you. But the woman disputed certain facts. She told me she turned down Minhaj, who was then a close friend, in person days before the dance. Minhaj acknowledged that this was correct, but he said that the two of them had long carried different understandings of her rejection. As a brown kid in Davis, California, he said he'd been conditioned to put his head down and just take it. And I did. The emotional truth. Wait, what? Okay, so he embellished certain facts. Wait, I don't understand. No, this is not like an incel arc at all. He's saying that like he still thinks it was because even though he was rejected days before and not at the fucking doorstep. Minhaj acknowledged that this was correct, but he said that the two of them had long carried different understandings of her rejection. As a brown kid in Davis, California, he'd been conditioned to put his head down and just take it, and I did. The emotional truth of the story he told on stage was resonant and justified the fabrication of details. There are so many other kids who had a similar doorstep experience. Yeah, okay. It's gross to use racism just because the girl rejected him. No, the difference is whether you believe that he genuinely believes that racism played a role in him being rejected by this girl or not when they were friends. You look at that situation and you go, oh no, it definitely wasn't racism. It was just that he was a goober and like these people were friends and that's the reason. I look at that story and I think, yeah, he's exaggerating certain aspects of it, like he actually fucking didn't get rejected at the doorstep. Fine, that's true. Okay. But the woman also said she and her family had faced... this part is fucked up, by the way. He should have never used their actual names. Like, that's insane. The woman also said that she and her family had faced online threats and doxing for years because Minhaj had insufficiently disguised her identity, including the fact that she was engaged to an Indian-American man. A source with knowledge of the production said that during the show's off-Broadway run, Minhaj had used a real picture of the woman and her partner with their faces blurred, projected behind him as he told the story. The woman said that Minhaj had invited her and her husband to an off-Broadway performance. She had initially interpreted the invitation as an attempt to rekindle an old friendship, but now she believes the move was meant to humiliate her. Later, she said when she confronted Minhaj about the online threats brought on by the Netflix special, I spent years trying to get threads taken down, she told me. Minhaj shrugged off her concerns. Why would he even mention it? Bro is still mad 20 years later. I think this is a convergence of two different types of marginalized backgrounds of people just like fighting, duking it out. On the one hand, you have like brown men in here who are like, no, this story is like definitely racism coded for sure. And then you have women, specifically white women, that are saying, no, this person just got rejected because, you know, women have the capacity to reject men, and men oftentimes have a violent reaction to that rejection. And that's why he's like a incel who is never really given up. I think that it was totally fucked up that he literally didn't even hide this person's identity all too well or even mention something that was like identifiable. I'm a little lost. Why would she be turning him down because of race if they were already friends regardless of race? Well, there's a difference between like there's a difference between turning someone down for prom if your parents are pressuring you to not go to prom with this person versus being friends with that person. He literally doesn't even, he incorporates that into his bit to begin with. He literally says, I ate from their plates. Like, I was friends with this person, and the family had never had any kind of like significant, they didn't have this kind of reaction until, I wanted to go to prom. That's what he's saying. The punchline to the joke was that years later, she actually ended up with an Indian man, not even racist, was the bit at the end. Wait, so he actually mentions that she ends up with an Indian man at the end of it? I think inviting her there, flex, supports the incel argument. Or inviting her there is not to flex a 20-year vendetta that you think he has when he has a fucking wife and children, but instead to quite literally be like, hey, I incorporated you to this bit. Look how funny it is. It's a funny bit. It's not that serious. What the fuck? Ultimately, I hate this kind of shit because it goes beyond. It always goes beyond the intent, which is to make a humorous quip about your lived experiences that you're certainly embellishing. But I don't think that he should have. I don't think that he should have fucking even shown anything that was identifiable. Bending into a pretzel right now, defending. No, I'm not. As a matter of fact, especially because I don't give a shit. I literally do not give a shit about any of this at all. Comedy policing is the absolute worst piece of discourse that we engage in this community. A lot of you are physically unable to comprehend comedy. A lot of you are Nanette fans. So I don't really give a shit about that. In general, especially the downfall of Hasan means that I would be the best Hasan. So, I don't, this is like only beneficial for me to like lean into how shitty Hasan Minhaj is. But I have certain principles beyond that I will abide by, which is I will always describe to you what jokes are, and I will always be reasonable. You'd have to take down Hasan Minhaj and Mehdi Hasan. I will not take Mehdi Hasan down. I think he does a great job at MSNBC. Let's be fucking real. There's no other voice like that is that outspoken.